guys, in this video I'm going to show you some function exam questions. Now in question 1 we're given three functions: f of x which is equal to 7x take away 2, g of x which is equal to x squared plus 1, and the last one h of x which is equal to 3 to the power of x. Now for part A we have to work out g h of 2. Okay, so we're going to use substitution and we're going to start by working out h of 2. Okay, remember when you get composite functions like this you have to work back to front, so you work out the second one before the first one. So h of 2, that just means we have to change the x value in the function h of x to the number 2. So instead of writing 3 to the power of x, we have to write 3 to the power of 2, which is 3 squared, which is 3 times 3, which is equal to the number 9. Next, what you have to do is substitute that number 9 into the function g of x. Okay, so this one, x squared plus 1. So if I work out g of 9, instead of writing x squared plus 1, we now have 9 squared plus 1. 9 squared is 9 times 9, which is 81. And if we add the other one, we get 82. So that's the answer to part A. For the second one, part B, we have to work out the inverse. If you see the letter, so this one f to the power of minus 1, that just means work out the inverse of that function. Okay, so the inverse of f of x. So what you need to do to work out the inverse is start by writing down x equals. Then you need to write down the function f of x, so 7x minus 2. But you need to change the x to a different letter. It doesn't matter which letter, I'm going to use y. Okay, now what you need to do is rearrange this equation to make y the subject of the formula. So what you need to do first is add 2 to both sides of this equation. Then you need to divide both sides of the equation by 7. And we've made y the subject. So the inverse of f of x is this part here, x plus 2 all divided by 7. Okay, so that's the answer. For part C, we are told that g of x is equal to ax to the power of 4 plus bx squared plus c. Okay, so we need to work out what the values of a, b and c are. Okay, now to do that we need to work out g of x. Okay, so this composite function. So it's a little bit like part A. You need to put g of x back into itself, g of x. Okay, so to do that, start by writing down what the function g of x is. So x squared plus 1. So that's the first step. Now what you need to do is put that back into the function g of x. So this becomes the x in this function. Okay, so you just swap in the x squared plus 1 in place of x. Okay, so instead of writing x squared plus 1, we have this squared plus 1. Okay, so that's g of x. But we need to expand and simplify these brackets, okay, so that it's in this format and we can spot a, b and c more easily. Okay, so when you see a square here outside the brackets, it just means you have to multiply the brackets by themselves, not forgetting we've got the plus 1 afterwards. So if I expand these brackets, x squared times x squared is x to the power of 4, x squared times 1 is just 1x squared, 1 times x squared is also x squared, and 1 times 1 is 1, not forgetting to add that 1 at the end afterwards. So we've got 2x squared terms, so 1x squared plus 1x squared now makes 2x squared, and 1 plus 1 is positive 2. So we've simplified our expression, okay, g of x. Now we can compare this with this here and pick out the values a, b and c. So a is the coefficient of x to the power 4, so the number in front of x to the power 4. So here, well, there's an invisible 1 that we don't usually write, so a is equal to 1. b is the number in front of x squared, so here it's just positive 2. And the last one, c, is just the number by itself without the x, so here another positive 2. Okay, there's part C. So for part D, it says that hf of x is equal to 81. So we have another composite function, remember you need to start with the second one, so f of x, which is 7x take away 2. So write that down first. Then you need to put that into the function h of x. Okay, so h of x is here, 3 to the power of x. Remember, this becomes the x value in the function h of x. Okay, so this power, this x, becomes this. Okay, so we've got 3 to the power of 7x take away 2. And we know that this is equal to the number 81. Okay, so we've got an equation that we need to solve to find x. Alright, so what you need to do with a question like this, okay, and the x is tied up within this power, is rewrite this number 81 as 3 to the power of 4. Okay, because 3 to the power of 4 is the same as 81. 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. So I know that, and you know, maybe that's a bit difficult for you to just know off the top of your head, but when you practice these function questions and you work on indices, this will seem a little bit more obvious, okay? Now, because these two base numbers, 3, are equal to each other, it means their powers have to equal each other, okay? So 7x minus 2 has to equal 4. So if I write that down, it now becomes a nice easy equation that we can solve to find x. So to solve this, you need to add 2 to both sides of the equation. So 4 plus 2 is 6. And then if I divide by both sides of this equation by 7, I get x equals 6 divided by 7. And there's x. Okay, in this exam question, we've been given 3 new functions: f of x, which is equal to 2x plus 1, g of x, which is equal to x squared plus 4, and h of x, which is equal to 2 to the power of x. So for part A, we need to solve this equation, f of x is equal to g of 1. Okay, so when it says solve, it just means work out the unknown. So in this case, we're working out the value of x. So let's write down f of x. Okay, so the function is 2x plus 1. So I'm going to write that down first. Then I need to put that equal to g of 1. So g of 1 is just function g, but replacing the letter x by the number 1. So instead of x squared plus 4, we have 1 squared plus 4. And now we just solve this equation. So on the right hand side, 1 squared is just 1 times 1, and if I add that to 4, I get 5. Then if I subtract 1 on both sides, I get 2x equals 4. Then if I divide both sides by 2, I get 2. So we've done part A, we solved the equation, x is equal to 2. Okay, for part B, it says f minus 1 of x. Remember that little minus 1? It means find the inverse of function f of x. Okay, so this one here. So to find the inverse, start by writing down x equals. Then when you write down the function f of x, so this here, 2x plus 1, change the letter x to another letter, okay? It doesn't matter which letter, I'm going to use y. And then you need to rearrange this equation to make y the subject, okay? So I'm going to subtract 1 on both sides first. And then if I divide both sides by 2, I get x minus 1 over 2 is equal to y. So I've made y the subject. So this here is the inverse of f of x. So for part C, we have to work out g f of x in its simplest form. Okay, so it's composite functions. Remember from before, you need to work back to front. So first you need to write down f of x, and then you put that into the function g of x. So f of x is here, 2x plus 1, so write that down. Now that becomes the x in the function g of x. Okay, so you're going to put that into here. So instead of writing x squared plus 4, we have this expression squared plus 4. Okay, so we just switch this in place of x. And now we have to simplify this. So here we have a squared, so that's the same as multiplying these brackets out. 2x plus 1 times 2x plus 1. So when I expand those brackets, 2x times 2x is 4x squared. Then I have a 2x and another 2x, which simplifies to 4x. and 1 times 1 is just 1, not forgetting to add that 4 afterwards. So I can just simplify one more time, because these two numbers add together. 1 plus 4 is 5. So there's the final answer, 4x squared plus 4x plus 5. Okay, so in part D we have to solve this equation. It says that the inverse of the function h of x is equal to 0.5. Okay, so remember that little -1, it means the inverse of h of x. So we have to solve, which means find the value of x. It's a 1-mark question, okay, so it's quite straightforward. All you have to do is put this number, 0.5, back into the function h of x. Okay, so you need to work out h of 0.5. Okay, so that's just the same as 2 to the power of 0.5. Okay, so you're just changing the x value to 0.5, which is the same as 2 to the power of a half. And hopefully if you know your rules of indices, you'll know that 2 to the power of a half is the same as the square root of 2. Okay, and that's the answer. We've worked out the value of x. Okay, so for part E, it says that 1 over h of x is equal to 2 to the power of kx. We have to work out the value of k. So let's do what it says. Let's start by writing this fraction. So 1 over the function h of x is the same as 1 over 2x. Now this is equal to 2kx, okay, 2 to the power of kx. To be able to solve and find the value of k, you need to write this in its index form. So if I rewrite it, it turns into 2 to the power of negative x, okay? These are the same thing. Now, if these are equal to each other, okay, they've got the same base number, it means the powers are also equal to each other. So negative x is equal to kx. Now, to solve k, I just need to rearrange this equation. So I'm going to divide both sides of the equation by x. And when I do that, well, negative x divided by x is just negative 1. So that's it, I found k. Okay, in this last exam question, we have f of x, which is equal to 4x minus 1, g of x, which is equal to x squared, and h of x, which is equal to 3 to the power of negative x. So for the first part, we have to work out f of x minus 3. So you just need to substitute this expression, x minus 3, into the function f of x. So this becomes the new x, okay? It replaces what originally was x here. So if I work that out, I get 4 multiplied by x minus 3, not forgetting to subtract 1. Okay, so can you see I've literally just switched this x to what's in this bracket. Okay, so I need to multiply this by 4. So 4 multiplied by x is 4x, and 4 multiplied by negative 3 is negative 12, not forgetting to take away the 1 as well. So in its simplest form, it becomes 4x take away 13, okay, because negative 12 take away another 1 is negative 13. So that's the answer to part 1. For part 2, we have to use the function g of x, okay, except this time we're replacing the value of x with 5x. Okay, so if we look at function g, okay, it's telling us to square x. So you need to square 5x. Okay, remember you're squaring all of it, okay? This term, 5x, replaces what was originally the x. So we have to square all of it. So 5 squared is 5 times 5, which is 25. And x squared, well, that's just x squared. Okay, so that's the answer to part 2. On part B, we have to work out the inverse of f of x. Remember, this little power negative 1 means the inverse. So just like in the other questions, to work out the inverse, start by writing down x equals. Okay, so x equals is the first step. Then you write down the function f of x. Okay, so this one here, 4x minus 1, except you need to change the letter x to another letter. Okay, anything you like. I'm going to choose y, so 4y minus 1. And then you must rearrange this equation to make y the subject. Okay, you need to rearrange to get y equals. So start by adding 1 to both sides of the equation. So x plus 1 is equal to 4y. And then you can divide both sides by 4. So x plus 1 over 4 equals y. So I've rearranged to make y the subject. So this is the inverse here. X plus 1 all divided by 4. For part C, we have to work out h of 1, and we need to make sure we round our answer to 4 significant figures. So remember, you work back to front, although in this case it doesn't really matter, but it's a good habit to get into. So you start by working out h of 1 first. So h of 1 is just the function h of x, but replacing the letter x with the number 1. Okay, so we've now got 3 to the power of negative 1. Okay, so that's the first step. Now we have to put that answer back into the function h of x again. Okay, so we're working out h of 3 to the power of negative 1. Okay, so this now becomes the x value in this function. Okay, so we've now got 3 to the power of negative 3 to the power of negative 1. Okay, so you need to put 3 to the power of negative 3 to the power of negative 1 into your calculator. Okay, and when you do that, you should get 0.69331 and so on. When it says round to 4 significant figures, it means you need to have 4 numbers in your answer. And we start counting the numbers after that first 0. So if I count those 4 numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, you need to check the 5th one, so this number 6, to see if it rounds the 4th figure up or not. Now if that number is 5 or bigger than 5, it rounds up, and if it's smaller than 5, it leaves this number the same. So because 6 is larger than 5, this rounds this 3 up to a 4, so the answer becomes 0.6934. Okay, so to get full marks, you need to make sure you round correctly. Okay, part D. It says, show that g of 3x minus 2 take away h of negative 3 can be written as 9x squared minus 12x minus 23. Okay, so let's see if we can do that. So let's start with this g of 3x minus 2. So it just means we have to replace the x value in the function g of x with 3x minus 2. So instead of writing x squared, I now have 3x minus 2 all squared. Okay, so I'm just swapping this, okay, in place of the original x. Then we need to minus h of negative 3. So h is here, 3 to the power of negative x. So I'm changing the x value to negative 3. So instead of writing 3 to the power of negative x, I now have 3 to the power of negative 3. Okay, remember there's already a negative here. And there's another negative here, so now we have a double negative. Okay. Now let's see if we can expand and simplify these brackets to see if we can end up with this. So when you have a bracket squared, remember it just means multiply the bracket by itself. Hopefully you know when you see 2 negatives next to each other like that, they just turn into a plus. Okay, so we've got negative 3 to the power of positive 3 now. Okay. Now, 3x times 3x is just 9x squared. 3x times negative 2 is negative 6x. Negative 2 times 3x is also negative 6x. So if we simplify that, we get negative 12x. Then negative 2 times negative 2 turns into a positive 4. And here, let's simplify this again. 3 cubed is 3 times 3 times 3, which is 27. Okay. Now, one more step, okay, I can add these numbers together. 4 take away 27 is negative 23. Okay, so we've done it. Okay, we've managed to simplify all of that to get 9x squared minus 12x take away 23. I hope you found those function exam questions helpful and easy to understand. As you probably found, there's a lot of algebra, so changing the subject of a formula when you're finding the inverse. We did solving equations, expanding and simplifying brackets, okay? So there's lots of algebra. Also the rules of indices, okay, with the powers. So if you want to get really good at functions, work on your algebra, work on the rules of indices.